Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set.
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands, heard around the world on the iHeart Radio application, and 4 former Clemson Tigers are headed into the Super Bowl as the Bengals go on the road into Arrowhead Stadium. T. Higgins, the leading wide receiver for the Bengals, as they come back from 18 down to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs. And I got a couple of things to get to here on this front. First off, I said it, and I have said it for years now, about the freelancing, erratic play at times of a guy like Patrick Mahomes, and how I honestly think that can end up costing the Chiefs more often than not in the postseason. This time it got the best of them, 27-24, the final in overtime. So the Chiefs go to overtime in back-to-back weekends. This time they win the coin toss. They turn the ball over on 3 plays with a Pat Mahomes pick. Cincinnati and Joe Burrow go down the field and win it as the Chiefs implode, if you will, on their home turf. Now, a couple of things here on that front. Patrick Mahomes nearly cost his team the game at the end of regulation, you might recall, and I could go on and on about this, and I think I will here in a minute. But on one of those final plays, I think maybe on the 3rd down play, in regulation, he kept holding the ball. And yeah, he's got time. He's got protection. But then he gets stripped and was fortunate that Kansas City even got the field goal opportunity to send that game into overtime. And then last but not least, the Rams come from behind victory over the San Francisco 49ers, giving us 2 spectacular conference championship games. And now the Super Bowl is set as the Bengals and the Rams will face off. And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm pulling for the Bengals in this one. I'm not a Joe Burrow fan. I didn't give you the final score either, by the way. 20-17, the final score, Rams over the Niners. So 3-point ball games again this weekend. Doing my justice, I think, for my belief that the NFL, the playoff model that they have, is the one that the colleges should adopt, and that should be the new model for the NCAA. I think it works out. And I know you can find years probably where there were blowouts. I like what we see. But back to what was happening in the latter stages of the Cincinnati-Kansas City game for a second. So in this business, being in broadcasting, I really think I try not to be overly critical of the mistakes or thoughts that guys in this business have, because I have been in a situation here where several weeks ago, I meant to say Nick Eason. I said Nick Saban. Like, those are misplaced dialogue moments that your brain doesn't even register that you said the wrong thing. Prime example, yesterday I was kind of watching the Rams and the 49ers with my son, and I was asking about Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver for the Rams. And so I don't really know how we were going back and forth between Kupp and Hunter Renfrow or whatever. And I said, Mason, ask Shlomo. That's what we call Alexa around here. I said, that's Shlomo, where Cup played college football. And he accidentally said, hey, Shlomo, where did Hunter Renfrow play college football? And I just kind of laughed and said, Clemson. I can answer that. And then he realized in that moment, and he didn't even know that he had said the wrong name because we had been talking about the two guys. Nonetheless, at the end of the Kansas City-Cincinnati game, KC is like at the 10, 15-yard line, something like that. And I can't believe what Tony Romo is talking about. And what he is saying at this point is, and he said it multiple times, he's saying that Cincinnati should let Kansas City score a touchdown so that they can get the ball back. Now, here's the deal. That is an awful strategy when you are up by 3. Because a field goal only ties you. And I get it. If they get in the end zone, then they're up by 4, and all of a sudden it's a much tougher row to hoe for you to possibly win the ball game. Like, I get that. But let me just say, if they are not on the 1-inch line, and even then, I don't buy into that theory in a game where you are up by 3. I simply don't. If you are in that scenario, you do not allow the team to score, because the worst thing they can do is kick a field goal and tie it, or score and win the game. I don't quite know what he was. Like, there might be cases where, say, you're up by 2, where you're up by only 2 points, where a field goal beats you, and maybe they're at the 5-yard line and you think they're going to try to run the clock down, right? They're going to try to run it out and just tick it down and kick the field goal to beat you. Like, maybe at that point you try to carry a guy into the end zone to give them a touchdown. But in no uncertain circumstance, never, ever, up 3, should you willingly allow the team to score to go up by 4 just to get the ball back, because you have a lead that they must punch the ball into the end zone to surpass. And then Kansas. Excuse me. I don't know why Cincinnati and Kansas City, those two names interchangeably are baffling for my mind. It's almost like they are each other played backwards. Like, I feel like if you said the word Kansas City and you recorded that and played it backwards, it would sound like Cincinnati. I could be 100% wrong, or you know what? I could actually do it. Here, let's play it back. What does Kansas City sound like in reverse? It is his name. Okay, so it wasn't perfect, but it's close enough for me. But the truth is, I thought Romo was way off base by just thinking or allowing or saying that, hey, they should let them score. They were up 3. Play defense. And that's what they did. They end up forcing the overtime period. They get the ball back in just 3 plays. They go down the field. And then I thought Jim Nantz might have jinxed Cincinnati by saying, and Cincinnati is going to be going on to the Super Bowl. And yet they still had to, like, run a couple of plays and line up and kick the field goal. I'm like, man, if this game gets away from them, Jim Nantz, you are going to be just obliterated on the radio stations in Cincinnati. But kudos to Joe Burrow. Just the first number 1 pick to ever take his team to the Super Bowl in his second season in the NFL. He has a chance to join Joe Namath and Joe Namath and Joe Montana as the only other players who have quarterbacked their college teams to a championship and also quarterbacked their pro teams to a Super Bowl title. And maybe most impressively and most crazy about that is that each of those guys' names is Joe. like what? I mean, of all the statistical anomalies of them all, the fact that all three of them are named Joe is probably the most odd. But that's where we are as we get towards the NFL Super Bowl. And again, T. Higgins, Jackson Carman, DJ Reader, all a part of Cincinnati. And the Rams, Tremaine Ingram is the guy from that team. So 4 former Clemson Tigers who are in the NFL Super Bowl coming up in 2 weeks. As for Carman and Higgins, those 2 guys will have the chance to be the 8th and 9th players in Clemson history to play on a national championship team and a Super Bowl champion. And so too will Tremaine Ingram if his Los Angeles Rams win the Super Bowl. 803-450-0086, 803-450-0086. Also, how about the fact that in the history of the Super Bowl, a team had never played in their home stadium until last season when Tampa Bay hosted and won in Raymond James Stadium. And now the Rams will host in their, well, not technically host, but they will play the Super Bowl in their home stadium. 2 years in a row after having never had that take place, it will happen 2 years in a row in the NFL as the Los Angeles Rams will be playing in their home venue. So just some odd numbers coming out on that front. 803-450-0086. We can also talk today about the news going along with the possible retirement of Tom Brady, the buzz that created around the country, the fact that so many people out there were like, man, I can't believe he's hanging it up, let alone the news leaking out the week of the championship games. And will that leakage be enough to maybe make Tom Brady spite those who put the word out early for a return? Could Tom Brady play another year simply to spite the breaking news? Question mark. I wouldn't put it past him. It's not like this year ended in such a way where he didn't look or feel like himself. I mean, the guy was still just simply phenomenal. And even to have the comeback fall short, I know there's a level of frustration that goes along with being knocked out of the postseason, but there's also a level of hunger that comes along with it too. And anytime you get a little extra, a little extra rumble in your belly to try to get back after it, maybe if you were teetering on the decision and you thought, yeah, you know what, I think I will, I'll just hang it up. And then it got out, you're like, wait a minute, maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. 803-450-0086. So again, Tom Brady, the possibility of his retirement, what that would mean for the NFL. Also taking a look at Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals and having a young star quarterback that's playing the way he is, just the first player, the first number 1 overall draft pick as a quarterback to lead his team to the Super Bowl in his second season. It's ironic because the last guy to beat, I think, Pat Mahomes in the playoffs was Tom Brady, who the whole rumor came out this weekend, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, about his retirement. And then the other quarterback that I know of, or one quarterback I know of that led his team to the Super Bowl in his second season in the league, Ben Roethlisberger, who recently retired as well. So all of that out there on the docket, possibilities, just some crazy statistics and numbers and comparisons between these guys. But maybe the most impressive thing I saw this weekend was Joe Burrow, calm, cool, and collected, big moments at Arrowhead Stadium. And he said, again, back in October, he said that playing in those SEC stadiums was louder than the NFL. It got him ready for the NFL. And he did not seem fazed by the Arrowhead Stadium crowd. And again, I think fundamentals wins the day. And if Patrick Mahomes wasn't surrounded by the incredibly talented group he is, I don't think his style of play works as well as it has. If you put Pat Mahomes in Jacksonville, I'm not sure they're much better than what they were with Trevor Lawrence. They might be a game or two better because of his experience, but other than that, I don't think they win a lot of games. And I got to say this too. I've spent a lot of time on Cincinnati, but this also just got me thinking. How stacked is that Los Angeles Rams defense? Holy moly. Von Miller, Aaron Donald. On the back end, you got Jalen Ramsey. I mean, they're just, that is tough sledding offensively. And Joe Burrow's offensive line is not great. He might be running for his life most of the ball game. But the great thing for Cincinnati fans, even if they don't win their first Super Bowl, which I think I would love to see them win their first Super Bowl, even for Kansas City fans who are concerned about that, one of the things you saw throughout that game against Kansas City is the fact that Joe Burrow is just slippery enough. Just makes the right moves at the right time. He's not Michael Vick, but he's also not a slug. I mean, he can do a lot of good things with his feet offensively, picking up some key third downs, sliding the pocket, jumping over a tackler who's trying to get him from behind. Just it was instinctual. It was an instinctual play. And so I think that he's going to have those instincts on full red alert, whatever you want to call it, when it comes down to taking on this Los Angeles Rams defense. I'm really looking forward to this game. I wonder about what the seating will look like. I'll give San Francisco, the 49ers fans, credit. They had that stadium yesterday out in Los Angeles looking about 50-50. Could the Super Bowl be even Cincy heavy? Since that's not a home game, technically, for the Rams, and Cincinnati fans have got to be starving to get another opportunity in the Super Bowl, dating back to the Icky Shuffle. What was that, 88, 89, somewhere in there? I mean, good gracious. Also, another thing that almost happened, it didn't. You realize the Bengals have only played in the Super Bowl against the Niners? I mean, we were that close to the Bengals playing the San Francisco 49ers for the third time in the Super Bowl. Now that would have been crazy. That would have been wild. All right, we got a break coming up here on the show that shakes the Southland. 803-450-0086. 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line, be a part of the program anytime, any place, anywhere. And again, we always appreciate you hanging out with us here on a beautiful Monday afternoon as we keep it rolling along here each and every day. Fox Sports Radio 1400, also available, of course, on the iHeartRadio app. You can go check out our website. Put the .com on it. Doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. We'll hit a quick break and come back with more right after this. Clemson Sports Talk on the Monday afternoon, 803-450-0086. If you want to be a part of the program, we would love to hear from you here. And again, coming up in hour number 2, William Qualkenbush will be joining us. I'm sure we'll talk about the NFL. What a wild weekend again. 2 3-point games. It has been an incredible couple of weeks for the NFL. In 2 weeks, the Super Bowl will take place in Los Angeles. Personally, I don't care who was going to be in the game because the halftime show is going to be off the chain. Cannot wait. Snoop, Dre, Eminem. Oh, yes. West Coast connection. Everybody getting after it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm also looking forward to the commercials. I know that we are inundated with ads throughout the calendar year, whether that's on YouTube or Twitter or wherever you are, but you can't beat the Super Bowl ads. And, when I was a kid, remember they had the Bud Bowl, and it was Budweiser versus Bud Light. And, every year, like, that was the big thing. That ad would play out throughout. I mean, it'd start with, like, the kickoff of the game and work their way through. And one time, I think, what did they went to the fridge or something. They brought in, like, a big keg, and it was supposed to be, like, William the Refrigerator Perry. But Super Bowl ads, whether it's Doritos, whether it's Budweiser, whether it's I don't know who at this point. I think GoDaddy at one point sort of blew the doors off of things with some of their ads and the way they marketed their brand initially. But for me, that's as enjoyable, at least the first half. You can tell that the cheaper ads start running in the second half of action, but for the first half, I mean, that is some of the best advertising in the country, and some funny stuff. There was one, wasn't there, where what happened? Like a guy, I'm trying to think. I need to go back and watch it. Like a guy, there was a time machine in the front yard. It was like made out of, I think it was made out of like a cardboard box. By the way, text us your favorite Super Bowl ad in history, one that you really remember or stands out. 803-450-0086. But there was a guy, and there was a box in the yard. Some kids had made it like a time machine. Maybe just one kid. And so the dude goes in the box, and there's a bag of Doritos in there, and he eats a couple of the Doritos, and then he steps out of the time machine. And where the boy was, I feel like there was like an old man, like an old guy had been walking by or something. And the guy was like, it really works. Like, he's like, he couldn't believe, he thought it had actually worked. That was a good one. And then there was one a couple of years ago too, where I think a bag of chips or something got stuck in a vending machine. I mean, who hasn't been there? So one of the great pastimes of the Super Bowl are the Super Bowl ads. And they can cost you a pretty penny. They can cost you a pretty penny. And so with that, and you've got these two teams, Cincinnati and Los Angeles, who I think probably it has surprised people that they are the two remaining teams. For sure, Cincinnati surprising people, maybe with the money and what the Rams have given up in players and future first-round draft selections and all of that. It probably is somewhat surprising that these teams are where they are right now. But the value of these commercials still just incredible. I mean, you could see the cost being at upwards of, like $6 million for a 30-second commercial, somewhere in there, $5+ million. I mean, that's big bucks for just 60 seconds. 60 seconds to get your name out there in front of the masses. Or 30 seconds, excuse me. $6 million for 30 seconds. $12 million for a minute, roughly. Ooh. Can you imagine? 803-450-0086. Again, great Super Bowl commercials. Would love to hear from you on that front throughout the years. The other thing, too, and sort of a running theme that we can certainly have over the next couple of weeks are your memorable Super Bowl moments. And I think one of the great things about growing up where we did, most of us here in the state of South Carolina, is that because the Carolina Panthers didn't exist for most of our formative years, you kind of got to pick who you wanted to root for. Like, you didn't have to be an Atlanta Falcon fan. And you could, unlike like Brave, like being a Braves fan, that was pretty much on your birth certificate, I think. If you're born in the Southeast, somewhere in your birth certificate, it's got your name, your parents, your date of birth, your love for your life for the Atlanta Braves, in unwavering love that is not allowed to falter. And then for NFL football, if you were born before the Panthers existed, you were just allowed to pick the Dolphins or the Redskins. At the time, the now Washington football team, who, by the way, there are some Tostitos chips in Charlotte, apparently, for Washington football team. And somebody said, why are these here? Let me tell you why those are there. Because before the Carolina Panthers existed, Washington was the team for people in Charlotte, in that area, for the most part. You either got the Washington Redskins on TV back in the day or the Miami Dolphins. You got Washington before you got Atlanta in a lot of places in the state of South Carolina and North Carolina. So that, if you need to know, is the reason. That is the reason why those chips are in stores in Charlotte, because there are still a ton of Washington fans there. But you could choose. You want to be a San Francisco fan when I was growing up? You could. You want to be a Denver fan? You could. A Cowboy fan? You could. Like, it didn't matter. You got to pick. So what were some of your favorite Super Bowl memories? Even though maybe your team didn't get there, you could watch a Super Bowl matchup between two teams, and you could pick a side and root for them. And the one for me, I'll tell you about it when we get back here on the show that shakes the Southland. The one for me will hit close to home for a lot of you, because if you're my age, it's probably one of the first Super Bowls you remember. We'll hit a quick break. We'll come back with more right after this. Lawton Swan with you, Clemson Sports Talk, a Monday afternoon. So we're talking about your favorite Super Bowl memories from your childhood and when you were growing up. And, you know, for me, honestly, the one that stands out is Super Bowl 20, the Chicago Bears taking on the New England Patriots. And it really came down to a combination of two things. Number one, first off, William the Refrigerator Perry was a movement of his own. Just his personality, the ties back to his time at Clemson. He was this dynamic, versatile rookie, maybe sort of like a Christian Wilkins, in that he was not only really good on defense, but was so athletic that the Chicago Bears gave him opportunities on offense, including the fact that he scored in the Super Bowl and one of the greatest running backs in the history of the game, Walter Payton's sweetness, did not. Now, that is a little bit of a blemish on that incredible 1985 season for the Chicago Bears, is that one of the best running backs in the history of the sport did not get into the end zone because they gave William Perry a carry at the goal line. But that still wasn't what made that Bear team and that season and that Super Bowl the thing for me. And that was the first one I remember. I think the Super Bowl before that was maybe Miami versus Washington. I want to say that was the Super Bowl the previous season. I don't remember that one, but I vividly remember that 85 Bears team and that Super Bowl where they blow out the New England Patriots. And the reason I remember it so well, and I want to say the final score in that game without looking. I'm going to check right now, but I believe the final score on that game was 44-10. Is that right? January 46-10. So 46-10. But the other thing about that game that I recall, and the reason I think it really resonated with me is because that was when MTV still played music videos. And music videos were the thing that everybody who was anybody was creating or doing. And the Chicago Bears coming up with the Super Bowl shuffle in advance of the Super Bowl. And that song having all of those players from that team, Richard Dent, Mike Singletary, Jim McMahon, William Perry, Steve Fuller, the backup quarterback also from Clemson. Those two moments, or that Super Bowl game and the Super Bowl shuffle, those two events to me made that game stand out as much as maybe any sporting event still in my life. It is so memorable. It honestly sometimes feels to me like that just happened. Like some days that is the Super Bowl. Like if you started to walk me through all of these games, that have taken place throughout the years, I can still picture the stadium and the way the turf looked like painted concrete, looked hard as a rock at the Superdome in New Orleans. Back then it was it wasn't called that at the time. It was just a Superdome, right? I guess that's the new name now, the Caesars Superdome. For a while, it was the Mercedes Superdome. I'm looking to see if it was called that then or now. Anyway, that Chicago Bears team and that defense, I'm telling you what, they were something. Buddy Ryan was the coach. The other thing that stood out too, or Buddy Ryan was the defensive coordinator. The coach was Mike Ditka. The other thing that stood out was that Gatorade bass seemed to be like a new thing at that point. At least it was something I had never seen before. And to watch these coaches just get doused with Gatorade after the games, and the Bears, if the Bears were like the Beatles, they were like something you had never seen before. That's the way they felt. It was a changing of the guard from the mindset of what a NFL team was supposed to look like and act like and be. And to me, that was what was beautiful about it. And I'm sure I probably didn't watch every snap of that game. I'm sure somewhere I was probably playing with a couple of my G.I. Joes or my my Star Wars action figures or something. But it feels like in my head, every moment of that game was important and significant. Like as a up and coming sports fan, that was the first time I really remember what I watched, and I don't know that ever leaves you. So maybe even more importantly than our conversation about your Super Bowl memory, maybe we could roll Super Bowl memories over to next week. But maybe we should start here for you today. What about just your first sports memory? Because I think that's it for me. January 26th, I think I said was the date. 1986. If you said to me, point back to your earliest sports memory, I was just about to turn 9, so I was 8 years old. That is the one. That game. That's the one that really stands out for me. Super Bowl 20. And you know what's amazing? You got through that segment without me singing any of the Super Bowl Shuffle. Now, that may be a record. That might be something to celebrate. Don't forget, coming up in hour number 2, we'll be joined by our good buddy William Qualkenbush. It is Clemson Sports Talk. Again, what is your earliest sports memory? Text us 803-450-0086 or leave us a message. Stay with us. Rolling along on a Monday afternoon, Lawton Swan with you again, the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk. We were talking before the break about your sports memory. William Qualkenbush joins us in hour number 2, your first sports memory. I am intrigued to hear where you guys were or what that event was. Was it a game? Because for me, it wasn't going to a game, and I don't know if going to games was just so overwhelming, or your mind was maybe just too young to process that and lock that into a memorable moment that you could hold on to. It was kind of like it just got filed off in the you don't need to know that section of your brain. But that Super Bowl between the Bears and the Patriots is it for me. That is the first true sports memory I have. Don't forget, I told you could text us 803-450-0086. You can also give us a call, and that works too. And over the weekend, we did get a call from our good buddy, Double O, who has been a loyal listener to this program for many years. Double O, what's going on?
Well, surprise! Yep, it's me. It's Double O calling from the deep, dark cave hidden in the mountain location that cannot be revealed. For I am calling the show. And as the great late Cleveland man used to say, the greatest sports talk show in the nation to say this. While I was on duty, called out of retirement to perform a highly top secret mission, I had scouts listening to the Lawton show in my absence, and they reported to me these things while I was away on duty. Number one, Lawton refuses to say, while announcing the number to call the show, 450-0086. He chooses not to say that in my absence. And in my absence, he prefers to say, and will not say anything but 450-0086. That's number one. Number two, I have not heard any reference or questions referring to my absence. And lastly, the show has been through difficult times, but I'll have to credit Lawton for keeping the show afloat with few casualties.
Thank
Keep
you,
up
sir.
the good work, my hero, Lawton Swan. Well, that's all I've got for right now, folks. I will be back with more information when I return from my mission. You guys keep it going and keep it rolling and go, my Tigers!
Double O, always appreciate it, man, and appreciate you being on duty for us and taking care of us wherever you are. What was it, in a undisclosed mountain location? Something like that? Good stuff. Oh, Double O, man. I'll tell you, I know Double O's, he's always texting me saying, Swanee, when's the video coming back? When you gonna get the when are you gonna get the phone lines up? That's it. When you gonna get the phone line? I couldn't think. What's the thing? When you get the phone lines up, man, as soon as we can. Trust me, I want it as badly as you guys do, believe me. But there's also a lot of flexibility currently in the way we're doing things. So I also appreciate that. 803-450-0086 text line, phone line. You can be a part of the program anytime, any place, and anywhere. And just like Double O, you can even call on the weekends. I won't fret. We were over in Augusta for the weekend. My son had a soccer tournament. They actually hoisted the championship trophy. He had a goal in the second game. 2-0 was the final score off there was a very nice corner kick, and he just flicked it in the net right off of his shin guard. Boom. That gave them the 2-0 advantage late and was enough to close it out and bring home a little gold medallion. So he's excited about that for sure. But, yeah, I got that message, I think, yesterday morning maybe. I came in. It was one of those weekends. Like, we had to get up at 6 o'clock on Saturday morning, and my alarm clock was angry about that. My phone was like, no. Why? My phone wanted to sleep in. And so then that just threw me off all weekend. I couldn't remember what day it was. Even still, I'm trying to recover from that. 803-450-0086, text line, phone line. Great to hear from Double O. And again, if you want to give us your favorite memories, your earliest memories from sports, I'd love to hear what they are. Whether it's a tennis tournament, you watched Wimbledon, I don't care. I'm just interested to know what you got to say about it. Adam chimes into the program. He says, Swanee, you called it on Patrick Mahomes. He said he almost lost the games because of his flashiness. Joe Burrow will be the next great quarterback in the NFL if Tom Brady truly is retiring this year. He does need a better offensive line, and it was really fun watching T. Higgins have a big game. Yeah, look, I didn't even mention T. Higgins' numbers, but Higgins was the leading wide receiver, went over 100 yards in the game with 6 receptions for 103 yards, the long of 44. No touchdowns, but excuse me, hit the mic there. But Higgins in back-to-back games in the postseason, 13 receptions, 199 yards. I mean, that's doing work. That's doing work. That's all you can ask out of a guy still very young in his career. And while Jamar Chase gets a lot of the headlines, don't be surprised if T. Higgins ends up having a better performance than Jamar Chase coming up against the Rams. I mean, Chase is going to command the attention of Jalen Ramsey. That should certainly help T. Higgins, and he can take advantage of his size. Hour 2, William Qualcomm just joins us. Stay with us.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set! Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan with you on a Monday afternoon. We've had a lot of fun talking about your earliest memories in sports. For me, it was the Super Bowl 20, the Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots. January 26th, 1986 was the day. Let us know yours. If you got a favorite Super Bowl commercial, we could get into that over the next 2 weeks until we get to the Super Bowl. I hate the 2-week layoff, but it is what it is. It's been that way for so long. William Qualcomm, however, joins us here every Monday. That's a regular basis. Qualk, man, so what is your earliest sports memory growing up?
God, that is a great question, Swanee. You hit me with a good one early. I remember, like, this is weird. I remember when I was really little, my parents recorded a Duke Clemson men's basketball game, and it had to be from like 1992 or 93. But I would pop that thing in the VCR and watch it sometimes when I got bored with like Robin Hood or Beauty and the Beast or some Disney thing. And I just remember, like, I was fascinated by the name Cherokee Parks. I thought that was a great name.
Okay.
And I assumed that it was Cliff Ellis who was coaching. But I wasn't even really particularly drawn to the Clemson part. I just remember Cherokee Parks. And that's weird. That's really weird. But that's it. My parents tell a story about how I met Danny Ford when I was like 18 months old at a basketball game. That's another one, but that's probably my first like sports happening. But the memory is that weird Clemson Duke game that was random.
Isn't that funny? Because that's like the thing that you just, if somebody were to say to you the question that I just asked you, like I can almost vividly remember what that was like. And that's the thing. And there's been so many in between now or then and now, but that is something I just hold on to. That 86 Super Bowl matchup when William Perry scores a touchdown and Walter Payton doesn't, and Jim McMahon, the punky QB. And I mean, all of that game, that day was so big for me. So we'll turn it to the Super Bowl. How about it? How about the Bengals? How about the Rams? Qualk, your thoughts off of another spectacular weekend, 2 3-point games this weekend.
Well, it was spectacular. And look, let me say first, there's no way the NFL, I mean, it's the best product in sports, but the great thing about it is that it can't possibly script anything better than what it normally gets, right? And, you know, one proponent of expansion of the playoff, I don't mean to take this down this rabbit hole, but I'm just going to say that one way you could sort of make somebody a proponent of the playoff is to say, look, if the team is capable of winning one playoff game, it's capable of winning a bunch. And sometimes when you expand the playoff and you get some of those teams out after one game that really weren't going to win any games anyway, even if they were higher seeded teams, it keeps the most important games from being blowouts. Again, that's kind of a weird logic.
I'm with you.
But
I am with you.
The Bengals are the 4 seed, right? The Rams are the 4 seed. Those are teams that weren't supposed to win their sides. And yet they demonstrated in the opening round that they could beat a 5 seed, they could beat a peer. And then they demonstrated they could be a better seed, they could beat 1 seed. And then they demonstrated they could win a conference championship game. And in the case of the Bengals, that they could go on the road to win that conference championship game. That's the beauty of what the NFL's got going right now. Now, I'll also say this. I thought the 2 games were very different, even though both teams overcame double-digit deficits to win. You felt like the Niners really never had like a stranglehold on the game, but it was clear as day the Chiefs are going to blow out the Bengals. Even when the Bengals scored right before the half, 21-10, you felt like the Chiefs were going to blow them out because they drove right down the field, nothing to it. They're going to go in the scoring range. And I said this today, you know, there are things that happen in the life of people, and I would say particularly in the life of men, where something that you assume is always going to be there, your wife, your job, security some other way, finances. I'm on a diet right now, so like sweets. You can't eat certain stuff. You can't experience certain stuff that you assumed would always be in your life. It can bring about a bit of a crisis, particularly if you never humbled yourself to the point that you ever thought, I'm not entitled to this. The Chiefs operated with the goal-to-go situation like they were entitled to get the touchdown. And we always thought, look, we know this. We applaud coaches. Look, and players do. Hey, coach trusted us. Well, we always leave out the second part of that sentence, because when coaches are aggressive on 4th down and they're aggressive in the red zone, all this stuff, they don't just believe that their team can do whatever it is they're asking them to do. They believe that their team can do whatever they're asking them to do against the team on the other side. That's a big deal to me. Taking the field goal there would have told the Chiefs, it wouldn't have told them they were less than. It just would have said, look, we're out of time. We think it's important to keep adding points because it's a playoff game and that team is credible, right? That team could possibly beat us. I think the Chiefs in that moment were operating with the type of bravado and arrogance that said, you're not taking what we want right now. We are going to go and get it. And the fact that they couldn't, and the fact that they kind of panicked and freaked out, Pat Mahomes seemed like a guy, I tweeted, did the Monstars do this to him? I mean, Pat Mahomes seemed like in the second half a guy who had his talent ripped away from him. I think it was that his confidence was totally shattered because something he felt entitled to, those points, that touchdown at the end of the half, was ripped away from him. And he couldn't understand it, and that was the freak out. On the other side, you felt like the Rams were just a couple big plays away from getting back into it, particularly as the 49ers were unable to establish the run. I don't think anybody thought that a 60-minute Jimmy Garoppolo game was going to be the formula for the Niners winning, but 60% of the plays that the Niners ran were passes, 40% were runs. You look at the regular season, you look at the previous times, the 6 previous times when Shanahan's beaten McVay, what has San Francisco done? They have established the run, and they've kept the Rams off the field. The Rams were plus 10 minutes in time of possession They had basically 50% more snaps. I think it was a little less than that, but essentially they had about 50% more snaps than the Niners did offensively. They flipped the script on San Francisco, and they wore them down over the course of the game. And then when it came down to it, Jimmy Garoppolo, he'll play great in the first quarter. He can look fine in the second quarter. But you get him down to crunch time, I don't trust Garoppolo to do anything even remotely close to leading a game-winning drive against a defense of that magnitude. So, I think two very different games because of which team got in front and the formula they used and how sustainable it looked.
Qualk, I'm about to say something probably pretty controversial, and I've said it here on the air, but I don't think you've heard this. Even when Mahomes led Kansas City to the Super Bowl championship, I haven't bought into all his freelancing, all the sort of unconventional things he does. And here's why. I think fundamentals wins the day, especially when you get into bigger, and more important situations against better competition. I think he's going to win a lot of regular season games in his career. I think he'll get away with some of that stuff that he does in the regular season. But I think it catches up to you eventually, and I think we've seen that now for a couple of years. It caught up to him yesterday. He almost cost his team the game, in my opinion, on the third down play right before the end of regulation.
I mean, look, I agree, and there's no way you could have been worse in the overtime in Kansas City. You literally just contested an overtime period against a better defense, I might add, a week ago, and you've never seen an overtime. Like you've never seen a drive where the object is to just basically take care of the ball, and if you're going to give it up, punt the ball. He threw 3 interceptions, and only 1 was actually picked off.
Right.
Let's not give the Bengals too much credit here. I mean, they dropped 2. They missed 2 potential interceptions on first, second down. I agree with you. I said it this way. Joe Burrow, a lot of people see him as a young quarterback in the NFL. The reality is, when you think back, and this is how you know that some people don't watch college football. We're about to get into that season where we get into the NFL draft, and it's clear as day that the people talking about the NFL just haven't watched college football because all they care about are combine numbers, and they don't have a clue how people played. Joe Burrow, his last year at LSU, we talked about him as a pro in college. Kelly Gramling reminded me today, he was basically taking night school. He had 6 hours online. He never stepped foot in the classroom on campus. He was basically doing football all the time. When he got to the pros, it was an easy transition because he had already been a pro. And he was coached by a pro coach because Joe Brady had never been in college before as an assistant coach. So Joe Burrow showed up as a grown man and operated like a grown man and knew how to train like a grown man. And he played like a grown man last night, under control, composed. Even when the chips were down, even when he had to make a play, he made smart plays to keep things alive for his team. He would run some. He got just enough yards. Mahomes, I said he was doing TikTok dances in the backfield, just spinning around, running around like a chicken with his head cut off, nowhere to go, nothing to do, just trying to run around and wait for people to fall down around him.
Yeah.
Well, at some point, that's just not gonna work. And the same, I think, can be true of Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford spent a lot of time in Detroit, but he's proven over these playoffs he's also a grown man. He's also an adult. And Jimmy Garoppolo was like a child. When you try to shovel the ball to your running back like that instead of just take a sack with a minute left, you got some downs to get the – I mean, what are you trying to do there? You're trying to be Superman, but you're a 50% passer with a noodle arm. You can't complete a single pass downfield. You don't have a lot of weapons down the field. Just play 2nd and 15. Don't even worry about it. You're either going to win or lose, but it's not going to be because you did this weird shovel pass and played the hero. At some point, to win a Super Bowl, an adult quarterback has to show up. Pat Mahomes has done it in the past. I will give him credit. When they came back down double digits to San Francisco, that was a playmaker that made smart plays. There's a little desperation in there too. Look, and I'm not saying you can't have a flair for the dramatic. Joe Burrow certainly does. But I'm saying at some point in a playoff game, you have to have adults at the quarterback position who will make adult decisions rather than trying to take every single inch of field like it's owed to you, like a child. And Garoppolo did that late in the game, and Mahomes did it in the second half. And it didn't work. We have 2 adults now in the Super Bowl because of that.
He's on Twitter at Qualt, talking again each and every day from noon until 3 o'clock, out of bounds with Qualk and Kelly. And we should note, Pat Mahomes is 26. Joe Burrow is 25. And for everybody who wants to know how old is Trevor Lawrence, just 22. So, I mean, Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow are much closer in age than even Joe Burrow and Big Trev. So just to throw that out there, because a lot of people probably think Joe Burrow is so young because it's just his second year in the league. And And the craziest stat of all, I think, of the weekend, I don't even know if this is a stat. I don't know what you call it. Fun fact. How about that there's a chance that Joe Burrow can become just the third quarterback to lead a team to the college national championship and the Super Bowl, a Super Bowl title. And I think all three of those guys are named Joe. Like, how weird is that?
It's weird. It's really, really weird. And I'll say this, nobody's ever done those two things and win a Heisman. And he has a chance to do that in his second season in the NFL. It is remarkable when you think about it. Like, your greatest strength is your greatest weakness a lot of times. That's the Pat Mahomes thing right now, where the flair and the bravado and the arrogance. I mean, Andy Reid's got it. You don't call the play, call with 5 seconds left. If there's not some arrogance and some like uber confidence, you're going to be able to get it done. Greatest strength is your greatest weakness. For Burrow, his strength to me is his maturity. I'm trying to find a weakness in it. I'm trying to find a weakness in the Joe Burrow maturity because when you can go to Tennessee and play against that team now, I will also say the Raiders were the only defense in the playoffs worse than the Bengals. That was probably a pretty good draw. The Titans were a very weak 1 seed where their best player was coming off a long-term injury, and their quarterback also played like a child when Burrow played like an adult. So that they had 2 favorable draws, in my opinion. This is where the luck runs out. To me, Burrow's ability to play like a 30-year-old, right, to play a little bit older than he is,
right,
I think stands out. And I'll also say this in a Burrow, you brought up Trevor Lawrence. One thing that's interesting to me about this debate is somebody brought this up. A lot of Clemson fans don't like Burrow. Because I was saying, why are Clemson fans so against the Bengals? You got 3 former Tigers in there who all are playing significant roles. Why in the world don't you root for the Bengals? And a lot of people say it's Burrow. I think Burrow is just a proxy for they hated LSU fans in the down in New Orleans in 2020, a couple years ago. But here's the thing: a lot of people also had the debate. The tweeter pointed this out: Burrow versus Lawrence, who is a better player? And so Clemson fans are stands for Lawrence, and so they feel like they got to trash Burrow to stick up for Trevor. Here's the bottom line, folks: Trevor Lawrence may never win a Super Bowl. To me, and I think to most reasonable people, Super Bowls are not the ultimate barometer of team success. Because Joe Burrow by himself, look at his team last year. Before they got chased, before they got hit, before they got like the full array of people, right? Before they got everything stocked.
Yeah.
Before they were able to get a full season from him. The Bengals weren't going anywhere. They certainly weren't going to the Super Bowl. It took drafting Jamar Chase. It took putting a competent roster around him. It took maybe some good fortune, some good coaching. It took a lot of stuff beside the quarterback. We give quarterbacks credit for wins, and we give them blame for losses, but we mostly credit quarterbacks for winning Super Bowls. And the reality is there are great quarterbacks who can't get there because they are stuck in situations where everything around them is just not up to par. That's Trevor Lawrence. So if you're looking for, if you're a Clemson fan, I say be free to root for Joe Burrow. If you want to root for T and Jackson Carman and DJ Reader, you want to root for Tremaine Ingram, pull for the Rams. That's fine too. But I'm just saying, to me, if Burrow gets 1 Super Bowl and Trevor gets none, we're not going to blame Trevor. Look who he's got to play with. I mean, good gracious, that guy's got an awful roster. Put a better roster around, and then we'll see the comparison.
And Qualk, I'll take it even further. That's what I said about Patrick Mahomes. Like I said, if you put Mahomes at Jacksonville in front of that offensive line, what kind of numbers does he put up? I don't think they're great.
He puts up 40 interceptions. He's throwing 40 picks. I mean, that guy, with Trevor supporting captain, people are talking about Trevor's interceptions. If you put Mahomes, particularly rookie or second-year Mahomes, with that group this year, especially after ETN went down, he's throwing 40 picks because he doesn't know how to switch it off. It would have been a disaster. There's no question.
Again, follow him on Twitter at Qualt Talk. So, Qualk, as we close the conversation here today, let's shift it back to Clemson and, more importantly, the Clemson Tiger men's basketball team. I know that it is a often criticized group no matter what, but you've got to really like what you've seen from Chase Hunter over the past couple of weeks and what his addition to this lineup has done. I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, but he has certainly become a bright spot that some people may have somewhat forgotten about.
You're right. It's an interesting example. I think my wife and I, we like to do logic puzzles. And really, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're a Wordle person, I like Wordle. If people do Wordle, that's great. Crossword puzzles, Sudoku, whatever you do. look, every morning, if you're a routine person, you sit down and you try to solve that problem, whatever it is. Legitimately, you could say coaching is a months-long logic puzzle where you're just trying to make everything fit just so. And you're trying to make things fit when the same combination might not work in the next game. The same combination of players might not be the right fit at this time. You've got players playing well right now, so you give them enhanced roles. They don't handle that great. They drop off. You got to have somebody else step up. To me, that's where Clemson is because they've gotten contributions from a lot of folks, but they haven't gotten a lot from Chase Hunter until the last 2 or 3 weeks. Now, Brad Brownell has told me glowing things about Chase Hunter. He's also said that they have seen a much better version in practice than they ever had in games, and a lot of that is just mental. That he was really struggling mentally. Maybe some of the injuries. Maybe he's a little bit worried about re-injuring himself. He had the lower leg injury his freshman year. He's had some other injuries off and on. This guy is playing free and easy. And I'll tell you what, Swanee, the scoring to me is a plus. I watched Chase in maybe the second or third game of the year, and he made 2 passes. I was sitting courtside. I watched him make 2 passes that I thought to myself, nobody else in the gym can execute that pass, and nobody else in the gym knew it was there, and he made it. And it might not have been an assist, but it was a pass that opened up something else for somebody else in the play. His floor vision, to me, is the best on the team. He's not your point guard, but he's your best floor vision guy. He sees the floor better than everybody. He knows where he is. He knows where his teammates are in relation to one another. To me, his turnovers were a lack of confidence. They weren't a lack of ability or a lack of instinct. If they can get him to continue to play like this, and maybe be a little bit longer, maybe a little more athletic look on the wing against some of the taller guards that they face, because that's really been an issue. Clemson's inability to level off and inability to contest shots on taller guards. This team's going to continue to try to find itself. And I think with a lot of home games coming up, second half of the league schedule, I think that's a recipe for success for Clemson.
I agree wholeheartedly. Qualk, he's kind of like Qualk, right? He's a vision guy. He sees the floor. That's what he's my William Qualkenbush. Hey, Qualk, buddy, always appreciate you. Can't wait to talk to you next Monday.
He's got to shoot more times at a higher percentage to get to my level, Swanee. Have a good one.
There you go. There you go, William Qualkenbush. Appreciate it, Qualk. All right, 803-450-0086 text line, phone line, a Monday afternoon edition of the show that shakes the Southland, rolls along for you here. 803-450-0086. Hit us up, your earliest memories. Plus, we got a commercial tweet we'll get to, or text, right after this. Clemson Sports Talk back with you, Lawton Swan, on a Monday. We were talking about Chase Hunter before the break. In his last 6 games, 8.7 points per game, 3.2 rebounds per game, shooting 58.8% and 61.5% from downtown from 3. I mean, you can't ask for much more. And, going back to what William Qualkenbush was saying, I think the other thing, too, for me, that is a huge advantage for Clemson at this point with Chase Hunter being able to play or playing well is the fact that I think it also gives Nick Honor and Alamir Dawes a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a break. I think that's a healthy part of this. It gives them just a moment to get off the court, catch their wind. They can split time a little bit. And he's really created some value, I think is the right word, some value for this Clemson Tiger team that maybe you didn't expect to see or that you didn't recognize as valuable early on in the season. All right, out to the text line. We go in again all day today and maybe throughout the next couple of weeks. We'll be talking about your earliest sports memories, your earliest Super Bowl memories, all of that. Nick says, that was a Doritos commercial I was talking about earlier. I don't remember. What did I say, Nick? You'll have to remind me. Let's see. Did I not say Doritos? What did I say? Tostitos? I probably did say Tostitos. I meant Doritos. Yeah, nobody eats Tostitos and thinks they're in a time machine. I guarantee you that's what I said. I would, but that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like about my son in that situation. Like, in this business, you can say one thing and completely think you're saying something else. Nobody in their right mind would have that feeling about a Tostitos commercial. Think they're in a time machine. Doritos commercial. Spicy Doritos. Spicy chili Doritos. That's where it's at. Doritos also make me think about early Super Bowls because you'd go to like that Super Bowl party. I don't know if you're where you grew up, if y'all had those, but like we'd go when I was a kid, we'd all go to our friend's house and we'd have like a Super Bowl party. And there were always, popcorn, Doritos, Coke, and Pepsi and all that. And you're just hanging out. It was the guys and the girls and everybody just watching football. Almost every year it was like, all right, we're going to have a Super Bowl party. Let's do it. I remember what I hated, though. I hated the fact that we had school the next day. I still hate that about the Super Bowl. That's probably the thing I hate the most about the Super Bowl is the fact that we don't have the next day off. I've been an advocate for Super Bowl Saturday for a long time. I don't know why it can't be done. They'll say, well, the NFL games are supposed to be played on a Sunday, but yet last weekend during the divisional playoffs, there are 2 games on Sunday. Or excuse me, 2 games on Saturday and 2 games on Sunday. I mean, how was it good for the goose last week, but not in 2 weeks? I think there will be many more people watching on a Saturday. Yeah, but people got stuff to do on a Saturday, Swanee. I don't think people care. The people that are going to watch the Super Bowl are going to watch the Super Bowl, whether it's a Saturday or not. Trust me, people who don't want to watch the Super Bowl aren't just bebopping around on a Sunday going, well, let me see if I can catch the Super Bowl. They're watching Netflix or whatever they want to watch. Like, this is the stupid thing about this. We don't live in a time and place where you have to be constrained by the guidelines of the television set. You want to watch anything at any time you can. So don't expect that, oh, well, it's Sunday, we're going to get more eyeballs. Bull butter. Bull butter. Nobody is going to be tuning in to watch the Super Bowl on a Sunday that wouldn't be tuned in on a Saturday. My kid, you know what my kids don't watch? They don't watch cartoons on Saturday morning. You know why? Because cartoons don't come on Saturday morning. You know what my kids are going to grow up with that I grew up with that my kids won't? This memory of how great and cool Saturday mornings were, because that was the only day where of the 5 channels that we were fortunate enough to have, any of them were dedicated to us. My kids have grown up in a world where when they want to watch a show, they can watch episode 1 through episode 12 of season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They can watch it over and over and over. They can memorize every line. Do you know how hard it was for me to watch my favorite movie when I was a kid, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? Do you know how hard it was to watch that movie? Because I didn't have it on tape? Well, I'll tell you how hard it was. It was nearly impossible. The only way that I got to watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was because some random kid I don't even know anymore, his name was Christian, that's all I know, whose family lived across the street from me. It was his aunt, and he would come up in the summer to visit for like 2 weeks. You know those old trips. Christian or Christopher or whatever his name was would come up from Charleston, and he would stay at his aunt's house. And some reason or somehow he brought up a copy of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and I got to watch it. That's how hard it was for me to watch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah. My kids don't know about waking up and watching G.I. Joe and the Smurfs and Shirt Tales and everything that came on. You know how great it was on a Saturday morning. And not only that, it was on NBC, ABC, CBS, and you were having to compete. You were having to compete to figure out, which time slot, what channel you were going to flip to. There was no DVR. There's no DVR. 803-450-0086. Nick over in Georgia sent me the link to that commercial, and it is better than I recall. I'm going to watch it during the break because I watched it without audio and laughed. I can't wait to watch it during the break. Again, it is the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk, rolling along on a Monday afternoon. Clemson Sports Talk on a Monday, rolling along, having a good time, hanging out with you again. The NFL playoffs conclude in 2 weeks with the Super Bowl. As the Cincinnati Bengals go on the road into Arrowhead Stadium, come away with a 3-point victory in overtime, and the Los Angeles Rams survive the San Francisco 49ers. And it'll be the Rams and Cincinnati playing for all the marbles, not this coming Sunday, but next Sunday out in Los Angeles. 803-450-0086. 803-450-0086. So I saw this news out of the Auburn area on the Plains, where, of course, Derek Mason recently left as defensive coordinator there. Brian Harrison, in his first season a year ago, losing Nick Eason to the Clemson Tigers. And then now, maybe even more so, troubling is that their brand new offensive coordinator, Austin Davis, who just joined the staff, has left the program for personal reasons, according to the Tigers head coach. He was hired from the Seattle Seahawks December the 18th, and last week took some time away from the program and will now step away. He said, the last week has been difficult for me as I made a decision to step away from coaching football. So he's grateful for the opportunity. And so with that, Auburn now on the lookout for another offensive coordinator. Mike Bobo was dismissed. Bobo has now landed where he was at one time the quarterback, and he's over at Georgia. And Mike Bobo is going to be a part of Kirby Smart's staff. Auburn, again, just in a strange timing. Strange timing. Derek Mason stepped down and then end up taking the same position. The defensive coordinator ends up taking the same position at Oklahoma State. And so at this point, I mean, there are people that are saying, hey, is there something more to this? What is going on at Auburn? Why all the turnover amongst the coaching staff? I think it's a legitimate question to ask. There's no reason not to believe Austin Davis's, quote, personal reasons. There's no reason not to think that that is an accurate assessment, but of why he left. But still, just some strange happenings in the mind's eye of a lot of people out there taking a look at Auburn's situation currently. 803-450-0086. Our website, put the .com on it, doggone it, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Some other news in the college football ranks as everyone is beginning to turn their attention towards the 2023 recruiting class. Wide receiver DeAndre Moore Jr. decommitted from Oklahoma earlier today. He is the 11th ranked prospect in the 2023 class and was the highest ranked commitment in the Sooners football class this coming season. The 5'11", 190-pound wide receiver out of Los Alamitos High School in Los Alamitos, California. He is the number one overall ranked receiver, and one would only imagine that his next destination ends up being right there in the state of California at Southern Cal with the former Oklahoma head coach, Lincoln Riley. But who knows? But I can tell you at this point, if you are Brent Venables, it has to be a frustrating situation given the fact that you've got these players who have been committed to your program but are possibly flipping and going to where Lincoln Riley is now the head coach out at Southern Cal. That would be a kick in the gut. But you got to build your program the right way. You got to build your program the way you want it. You got to have your guys. And Oklahoma tweets out that OU DNA. And whether or not these guys who have been committed will stay committed is one thing, but you got to build it your way. And if these guys are going to leave, then Brent Venables, his job is to just go out and secure the next crop, the next good crop. But I can't imagine what it's like to have that kind of, gut punch of Caleb Williams trying to decide what he's going to do. Then recruits backing off of their commitments, and so much of it because you're not Lincoln Riley. I mean, that's the thing. These guys want to play for Lincoln Riley. One final note out of the world of college football. Bobby Ingram, you may remember him, not just from his time at Penn State, but Bobby Ingram, a native of the great state of South Carolina, who played his football over in Camden. Ingram has been named the offensive coordinator for the Wisconsin Badgers. Previously, he was with the Baltimore Ravens as their tight ends coach, and he was also the wide receivers coach. But he is going to be the offensive coordinator for Wisconsin. Again, Ingram was a standout wide receiver at Penn State. He was an All-American and won the Biletnikoff Award back in, 1994 maybe? He was a second-round pick in the 1996 NFL Draft, but Bobby Ingram has taken over as the offensive coordinator for the Wisconsin Badgers. And what an interesting setup this could be. Now, his son, Dean, is a cornerback for the Badgers. He's replacing Joe Rudolph, who departed for the Virginia Tech offensive line coach position back in early January. So Ingram worked with Paul Chryst, the head coach of Wisconsin, while the two were at Pittsburgh. So there we go. Bobby Ingram, a name we haven't heard in a long time, a sandlapper, spent 15 seasons in the NFL. He'll get a stab at being a college offensive coordinator at Wisconsin, a program known for ground and pound. Will Ingram give them a little different look offensively, given his wide-out tendencies? I think it's something to keep your eyeballs on, and it's always good to have a native son doing well. With a break, we'll come back with more right after this. Final segment, Flip Side.
What have you done for me lately? It's a fair question. Just don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't forget history. Lucky for us at Clemson, the answer to the questions, what have you done for me lately, and what have you done always, are the same. We win.
Final segment on a Monday afternoon. All right, so during the break, I found a little tweet that was talking about a controversial, using some air quotes here, moment during the AFC Championship game between Cincinnati and Kansas City. And there was a play in overtime where Joe Mixon, running back for the Bengals, who I have no love for whatsoever. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite plays in Richard Jurgen's career was when Clemson took on Oklahoma and Richard Jurgen knocked Joe Mixon out cold, out of the game, everything. That was a beautiful moment. And if you know Joe Mixon's background with some of the things that took place during his time at Oklahoma, you'll probably be supportive of him being knocked out by Richard Jurgen as well. Nonetheless, Mixon now in the NFL with the Bengals, had a big run late that took the ball in about the 12-yard line. He goes down, puts the ball down, kind of drops the ball, and according to what I was reading, Andy Reid wanted a review during this drive, but the official said that Mixon gave himself up. Now, I don't see that Mixon gave himself up. I'm going to be honest with you. But what I do feel like I saw is where a player did at least touch him and knocked him down. And look, by the letter of the law is about contact, down by contact. And it looked to me like he was down by contact and touched. But even if he wasn't down by contact and touched, the thing that I don't like about sports at times is that we get so into the letter of the law and not the purpose of what took place, if that makes sense. And what took place was a guy who went down, whether he was touchdown or push down, and every player on the field thought the play was over, except for maybe one guy who scooped the ball up after the play was ruled dead. I don't care if the Bengals or the Chiefs win that game. I don't care if that play gets returned for a touchdown. But what I do care is that our rules make sense and that they are enforced sensibly. And that was not a play that would have been enforced sensibly had they allowed it to continue and say, yeah, Joe Mixon fumbled the football. Because let me give you an alternative scenario. Let me give you a scenario where Joe Mixon gets knocked down from behind by his own teammate. That's not down by contact. And so if that were to happen to you and you were a running back and you put the ball down, you don't know who tackled you from behind or how you got tackled. So why would we penalize a player when he's clearly down? He's not trying to advance the football. He's down. In his mind, the play is over. I mean, and that to me is a guy giving himself up. The second he throws that ball down, he's giving himself up. Now, it's different like with the South Carolina State kick returner who caught that ball and flipped it to the official, and Clemson scored that time. That's different. The ball was never down or even on the ground or any semblance of contact to the ground by the player. None of that happens. All of that happens in this play. So go out and watch it. See what you think. 803-450-0086. Let me know. Am I way off? Did he get touched? It looked like he may have gotten touched. I'm just not 100% sure. But again, I just want reasonable calls. Like I want the game officiated reasonably. And even if you don't think that he was touched by his own player, or excuse me, touched by an opponent, and you believe he was tripped by his own player, how is a running back to know that? And that's the point. Like, how would he know? And that's why I think when he puts the ball down, he gets up to celebrate, he is giving himself up because he thinks that he has been tackled. I mean, change the scenario, honestly. He's imagine it's a wide receiver on a long route, and he's got his buddy blocking for him downfield, and his buddy gets blocked into him, and he goes down. But he thinks he got tackled, and he puts the ball down celebrating. A player can't know who tackled them. Like, there has to be some level of you're down by contact by your own team, if you will. You know, your own guy knocked you down. I don't see how you could otherwise expect players, and I'm sure it doesn't happen all that often, but how would he know who knocked him down? How would he know? He wouldn't. And so anybody complaining about that, guess what? Tell Pat Mahomes to play a little bit more fundamental football. Maybe you'll win that game next time. How about that? That's all the time we've got. Incredibly, 2 hours in the books here on a Monday afternoon. Glad to see the weather turning up a little bit, getting warmer for us. I'm thankful for that because it was cold this weekend. Holy moly. And you know your boy Swanee does not like it cold. All right, we got to get out of here. We will be back tomorrow. Until then, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers.